All right, welcome everyone. Welcome to the Forge Coffee Break. Today is the episode number 17. We're doing a long way, and thank you for joining today. The Coffee Break is really an open space for general questions, any topics that you may have. So let me start with you. If you have any topics that you'd like to bring up, any projects, exciting projects that you are working with, what else you have there? I see a lot of faces, names that I saw before. Let's see who else we have here. Chuck, Vaish, Bobby, Rami, Balaji as well. Welcome, everyone. Any general topics?
They haven't had the coffee yet, I think.
Yes,
Hello.
that's also always a challenge. Oh, who said? Yeah, someone said.
I think that's
Yeah.
Rami.
Yeah, hi.
Oh, hi, Rami. Good morning, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, where's
I
the
have a
coffee?
question.
Yes, go ahead.
So regarding, we were looking at approval check in BIM 360, like ability to read it. There's no way to read it or to get access to it, or just to initiate a workflow from the API.
That's the approval workflow, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Is there
believe.
a plan for that? Or...
Yeah, I believe you're right. It's not there. I'm trying to recall here, but let's see if anyone from BIM 360 is here. I don't think so. But yeah, I don't think that the API is coming or coming soon. I don't recall that being part of the very close roadmap. And I'm just looking at the documentation. It's not there. But what you should know that now that we are having the construction cloud coming out, and the team is working intensively to have all the APIs released. But yeah, I mean that's probably coming soon, but I don't have a date for that yet. Sorry, just the long answer for
it will be
not a good answer.
It will be part of the construction cloud API. You mean?
Yeah, I'm trying to recall if that's part of the product. I don't remember exactly. I know that this is on BIM 360. I don't recall if this is on construction cloud. I would have to check.
Yeah, me too. I'm not sure. Because I was looking at BIM 360 for now.
Okay.
And also there's the issues API on docs, like on the construction cloud.
Yeah.
So the issue,
yeah, the issues API, it's on BIM 360. If you open the documentation, it says that it's not compatible with ACC. So meaning that API is not there. Probably because the teams plan to release a different API for Construction Cloud. So as soon as the API is ready, they are going to release that.
Is that part of like a plan, known date, for example, if you can get approximation?
Yeah, I don't think we have a public roadmap with dates. I'm sorry about that. What we are doing, and as I mentioned for the approval workflow, is to make sure that we keep the API first mindset, right? So principle. So whenever we develop a new feature on BIM 360, or in this case, Construction Cloud, whenever we develop a new feature, the API is part of the feature because the product is using the API. So API first principle, it's all about that.
Okay. Cool. All right.
Yep. Thank you. Sorry a bit about the bad news.
That's fine. Thanks.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for speaking up. So Michael is here. Michael, I was looking at and let me bring you up to the spotlight. I was looking at this amazing work you did with John as well, right? Working on this label thing. John is not here, but it's very interesting. I remember there is some occlusion here when you move, right? But this is not part of the animation, correct?
That's right. Yep, it's occlusion. Yep, it'll sort of. You can actually click on the demo. There's a demo link there that you can have a little play with. It's kind of fun.
Yeah, this is very interesting. Source demo right here. Yeah, if you haven't seen this one, it's about adding labels. No better labeling than just adding. It's not on Canvas. Sorry, it is on Canvas. It's not using divs on top of the model, right?
Yeah, now if you go up to the top there where it says type something in the top left-hand corner, yeah, you can type in my name if you want. Or you can type in, I don't know, Jaime's name, or coffee time. There you go. Type in Jaime's name because I know Jaime's got some coffee going and my coffee machine's gurgling in the background.
Yeah, it's
there we go.
It's very impressive.
The question was, there's a question I noticed that popped up. Does it affect loading time? No, there's like about, I don't know, 1 kilobyte of JavaScript, which probably gets compressed down to 20 bytes, which is really just for the code to make this, to activate this, to make it work. Very simple. It's already built into Three.js. Text geometry, text labeling systems are already built in. The font that we're using is it's called Monaco from Sublime Text Editor. I think that's probably about 20K, which is compressed to about 2K. All fairly, it doesn't really affect load time. And it's meant to be a 3-part blog post, so this is just the first part. There's basically lots of ways to do labeling in the Forge viewer. This is one of them. This is it's got some pros and cons, and so this 3-part blog post really is meant to kind of group all the different ways of doing labeling together. The labeling approach that you've done in the past, Augusto, which uses div elements and has the labels that just sit on top of the canvas of Forge viewer. That's one approach, and that's like, it's got some really cool advantages. It's CSS based or div based, so it's really easy to work with. Like doing clicking and hit testing and styling just makes it so easy to work with. But you lose out on performance, and you lose out on occlusion, and you can't really do 3D that easily. It has some tricky things you can't do. But if you want to put a little bit of extra work in, and you don't really need to style things too much, or you don't really need to click on things, then this approach is also an excellent one. And it does get great performance. Objects, so the text labels, just like markup annotations, dimensioning annotations, I should say, that you see with manufacturing parts and that labeling you see with manufactured parts. That's what you'd predominantly use this labeling approach for. So yeah, we've got 2 more blog posts coming on this. The next ones will be based on CSS 3D, and then the last one is going to be sort of bringing it all together into this kind of annotation markup tool, which Joe is working on.
Great, yeah. I like the idea of showing how to add new information on the viewer. This is one of those interesting examples. Thank you, Michael. Thank you for helping John with that. Next time I'll have him here to show the part 2 of the sample.
Absolutely. I feel like I'm stealing his spotlight. There's a couple of features there that he added, which are really nice too. Check out the little scaling slider. I think there's a scale that you can change. Yeah. It's all good fun. Yeah. Anyway, I'll leave it. I'm sure there's more important questions.
No, yeah. Come on. Let's open up. Any questions here or any other related topics? There are so many interesting blog posts over the last few weeks that last couple weeks, right? And I think this is one. I'm not sure if you are aware that the viewer can load PDF, DWF, and GLTF. A lot of F on here. And when we load that, it's possible to do that without translating the files. So that's very interesting. There is an extension on the viewer to do it. And we did this blog post on the topic. Anyone here doing PDF, DWF, GLTF models? I was curious if this was something that is relevant or not.
I just think DWF in general is quite useful.
Yeah. Vaish?
Yeah, we would like to use the GLTF in like offline scenarios. But I'm not sure if just using the GLTF or DWF is going to have any impact on licensing. Are we okay to use like completely disconnected, convert to Revit to GLTF and then use the viewer? How does licensing come into picture?
Yeah, that's a very good and appropriate question, and thank you for bringing that up. So when we use the viewer today, there is a license at the top of the viewer that says that the viewer JavaScript library should be served from Autodesk servers, and also that the viewer can only be used with files generated by Autodesk for services, right? So I think that's what we're talking about.
Yes.
Correct. Yes.
So a little bit more to it, Augusto. So think of it like the OBJ that you can produce from the model derivative service. That OBJ file, once you've downloaded that OBJ file, that's yours. You can do whatever you want with that. If you want to use it inside Unity or inside Unreal Engine or Blender or take it offline on an iPad, you can do whatever you want with that. And that's the same with the GLTF file. If we generate, or if you use a tool to generate a GLTF file, same thing. You can do whatever you like with it. When it comes time to viewing the GLTF file or that OBJ file, you can use standard 3JS to view it with, or if you want to use, and you can take that completely offline, if you want to use Forge Viewer to view an OBJ file or a GLTF file, then it sort of falls under the category of you need to follow the EULA that's for Forge Viewer. And there is a talk on how to do offline for Forge Viewer. You can actually take Forge Viewer offline. The only catch is you just need to create a service worker that caches the viewer.js file.
Yes, correct. And I think that's the interesting point, that the viewer team, so there are two things, right? So how do you serve the library and what kind of models you can load? So the viewer team, so that's why I said this is a very appropriate question, because the viewer team is reviewing that EULA right now to make sure that we can accommodate this kind of workflow where the DWF or PDF are being served offline or from your own local environment. So we are reviewing this, Vaish, and as soon as they clear that with legal, we're probably going to change a bit the EULA. Should not affect existing applications, but accommodate this new kind of workflow. So yeah, thanks for bringing that up. This question is coming often, and we're definitely reviewing that EULA. Yeah, thank you. And also thank you, Michael, for topic. Let me switch gears for a moment. Today we have here two special guests, Sarah and Amber, and we are doing some work on Autodesk on how to create and provide you better SDKs. So the experience today, it's a bit clunky, and we're working on that. And we are also working on how to present that information. And I would like to open the microphone to Amber. So Amber, you're presenting, right? So you can show us what you have, and just get some information from you. It's very important to have the you developers direct contact with you. So take it away, Amber.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Augusto. Hello, everyone. My name is Amber. I'm a designer working on SDKs for the Dev Portal. And I'm excited to show you all today a mockup I've been working on, and then also get a little bit of feedback on it. And so before we start, disclaimer, the prototype you'll see today is for research purposes only, so don't make any strategic decisions based on it. My plan is first I'll give you a tour of the mockup, and then we'll have two questions that I'll put on. I'll have my screen shared, I'll show you the questions, and then if you could respond either by going off mute or by typing it in the chat to get all of your feedback. So first the demo, let me share my screen. There we go. All right, so one sec here. All right, so this is the landing page version of in my mockup. So we have the core components and Autodesk Construction Cloud API tiles. This might look pretty familiar to what is currently there. But then down here, I've added a SDK section to browse all the SDKs by language. So for example, Node.js is selected, and so all the different Node.js SDKs would be visible here. And then each API would have, each API would have a button to get into the API information, into the SDK information. Still working on hammering all of that out, but that's the current plan. And then if we go into one of these APIs, we have an API introduction and some SDK information right under here. And so some simple installation information, and if it was real site, there'd probably be be more, but this is a taste of what would be there. And then also code samples and step-by-step tutorials links. Those should look pretty familiar also. And then in the API reference, this is pretty similar, but then in the endpoints, I've added a code snippets to show what it would be like to call each thing in each language. So you can switch the language as I've done and see that. So that was the real quick little demo. And there we go. All right, so first question, again, if you all could either put your answer into the chat, you can just type the letter. If you want to say why, I would really appreciate it. So if you are willing or comfortable to do that, that would be great. But if you're not, you're welcome to just type the letter, or you can go off mute if you want to explain a little more. So the first question is, which way would you navigate into the documentation if you're looking for specifically an SDK documentation? And so I've highlighted 3 options in pink here. One of them is the SDK button from in the API tile here. One is from in the SDK section, and the other one is by using search. And if you have another option, feel free to write that that instead. So tell me your answers.
I can answer. It's
Go ahead.
It's A, because I'm
Also,
looking for something directly, like so it will be BIM 360 API specific. So I'm going to go to the specific BIM 360 API. Go to the
great.
SDK.
Yeah, thank you so much for going off mute and saying that. I realized I forgot to say something. There's no right or wrong answers. It's not like there's a correct one here. I'm just trying to get a gauge of if there was multiple workflows available, which one you might take. But thank you so much. That was super great. And for people putting it in the chat, that's great. If you have different answers from other people, that's also fine. Again, no right or wrong answers. And if anyone has an explanation or something, feel free to add that as well.
Yeah, I see some questions. I see some answers on the chat window, right? So
Yes.
thank you.
Yes, thank you everyone who's putting it in the chat. I'm just giving a few more minutes if anyone else wants to come off mute or put their answer in the chat. I'll give you another minute on that.
I'll also say to the Forge advocates, you are welcome to respond to the poll as well. Please.
That is true.
We don't want to persuade the answers.
Michael.
That's one of
Yeah.
Okay,
we can definitely answer that later.
You can message
Okay.
Amber directly if you want to do that.
Yeah. You can message me. I will take your answers also. All right. If other people have answers, get them in. I don't want to rush people, so I see the answers are still coming in. I'll give you another minute. And if anyone wants to give an explanation, you don't have to. But if you want to type in why you put that letter, that is always appreciated also. But no pressure. Okay, oh, thanks, Augusto. I have not been counting, but I have been notified that everyone answered. So thank you so much for participating. I just saw some answers. So great. We will go on to my second question. I only have two. This will be super quick. So the second question is inside the documentation. You might recognize this left nav from inside that page where there's like developer's guide, API reference, SDK information, all of that. So where do you think, either where might you expect it, where might you prefer it? Completely up to you. Again, no right or wrong answers. Where do you think the SDK information, so any information about the, thank you, Gustav, any information about the about SDKs like installation instructions, setup instructions, etc., the first place you might go when looking for SDK information, where in the hierarchy of information inside the documentation, where do you think that should go? And so one option is I've shown what the navs would look like, or what they could possibly look like. So one is nested underneath the API guide, and then another option is in its own top level section. But also if you have another suggestion that isn't one of these, feel free to type C and explain. So yeah. And again, if you have a why for any of them, that is always great.
I have a question. Will they be different for each API, like Vim360 or ACC?
That's a good question. They totally could. I've just put Vim360 as an example here. That's sort of why I graded out. And so in this case, if you have a different answer for a specific case versus a general, I will totally take it. I've been thinking, the way I thought about this question is that to establish consistency across all of them and have them be similar. But if you think one of them would benefit from being different than the others, I totally want to hear that. So yeah.
I thought they will be all the same. So if you put it on the top level near the boxes, so installing SDK specific.
Which do you mean by top level? Do you mean A or B?
The page one, the first question page.
The option A?
No, the previous page. Like
the previous, sorry, can you say your question or your answer thing again?
Yeah, to put the SDK installation information on the previous page.
Oh, I see. Would you?
Because it's the same for all, I guess. I'm not sure.
Do you mean, so if the SDK, if like the installation instructions were the same for all of them, you would want them on that page?
Yeah, because then you'd be repeating them here, right?
Yeah. That's a great idea. Thanks for bringing that up. Do you have do you know where you would expect them if the installation instructions were like totally different between each one?
Here.
Do you have a preference between these two options?
Yeah, A, because I know. Or B, because you want to mention it, because you want to highlight it. That is different here. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's each SDK, each language will have its own way of finding the SDK, installing the SDK. It may vary, but the way to use the SDK may not be that different. I think that's one of your questions too, right, Romy? Because if the API is the same, the actual usage of the SDK is the same, but the setup of the SDK varies from language to language, right? Node is different from .NET, but as soon as we move away from that initial setup, the SDK specific will be the same, right? We have to call the same kind of methods to do the same thing on the API. Interesting. Thank you.
Yeah. I appreciate all that.
Yeah. Thank you, Amber. That was
ideas.
very nice. Yeah. Glad that we're moving with that. And thank you for sharing interesting ideas.
Yeah. And if anyone has, I'll stop sharing, but if anyone continues to put letters in the chat or whatever, I will see them and I will appreciate them. So don't stop doing that. Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Amber. That was interesting. And just before we started, and switching gears again, moving back, just before we started, there was a question that I didn't answer. So the question was about this sample here, the file upgrader sample. And I believe Moses was asking, and I really like this sample. This is a very typical workflow, how to migrate samples and how to migrate files. And that's a very simple usage of the design automation, because you just have to open and save the file. You don't do anything, just open and save. But he was asking how to get more details about the information. And I think that's very general for design automation. The only way to get information out is by the report that comes out of the design automation work item. So he was asking how to get that information from here. If you go to the Learn Forest tutorial and select Prepare a Plugin and select the specific language. So in this case, I think he was talking about Revit. There is a piece of code here that is called log trace, and it's adjusted for each engine. So for Revit, the way to output on the report is to console write line something, right? And that will show on the report. Just out of curiosity, if you're doing AutoCAD, it's slightly different. You have to use the editor to write a message, and I believe Inventor is pretty much the same as Revit. Oh no, it's a bit different. It's trace information. So each engine will have its own way of tracking output information, and that's how you get information out. And it's also interesting to save the report after you execute the work item, because we keep that report, but you need the work item ID to go back and get that information. So you either keep the report or keep the work item to go back and get the report. And it's very important because it may fail because of the file is not ready or there is a problem on the execution, and having the report is the best way to track that information. So yeah, deep dive on that question. Thank you, Moses, for the question. And there was one more from Vaish, and I'm reading here. Is it possible to download properties for SVF2 viewable, or as an alternative, can we download mapping between SVF DBID and SVF2 DBID? Maybe we have one of the experts here, but I believe that we can download the properties because the properties database is essentially the same, but the mapping, can we download the mapping? Maybe you know, Michael.
I'm sorry, what was the question? I missed that.
So can we download the mapping between SVF DBID and SVF2 DBID?
Ooh, you certainly can. If you go to my GitHub, I'm going to do a blog post on it. There is an existing blog post, but this one we kind of need to connect the dots. Yes, you can.
Okay. Okay.
If you go to github.com/wallabyway for me,
which
yeah,
and let me share here. Give me a moment. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
And this should be at the proxy properties dash proxy. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And this will explain it in a nutshell.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, essentially this code here, it's one little file, server.js, and all it's doing is loading a IDX file. It's pretty small. It's literally, I don't know, maybe 100K, 100 kilobytes, not even that. And if depending on how big the file is, but it's generally very tiny little file. And it's just simply a big old array. It's a swizzle. So if you have a DBID number 1, so if you look at the diagram below, so this is just a quick example. Let's say you downloaded an OBJ file version of a BIM360 Revit file, and you've got that OBJ file. It's a building, and it's inside the OBJ file. You've got each little element is represented with. You can see in the comments, it's got an ID, and that's a DBID, and that DBID is a version 1 DBID. So far, so good. Nothing's changed. But what has changed is on the far right-hand green, on the bottom right-hand side of the diagram in the green, is the Forge Properties API endpoints. And there's 3 of them, which I've got listed. That Forge Properties API is currently producing DBIDs for our version 2 SVF. So the numbers look a little weird. They're not quite the same as what they used to be with version 1. And that was released on July 1st. So if you're using BIM360 files, it's most likely those files are getting converted to SVF2, and they're being the Forge Properties endpoint is producing the wrong DBIDs for you. So in order to correct that, you can use this little proxy service. And the proxy service, you basically call this Heroku proxy service endpoint instead of the Forge Properties endpoint, and it will automatically convert those DBIDs from version 2 back to version 1. And so it basically restores the old behavior. And that's for the three endpoints there. So instead of calling Forge Properties API endpoint, you call this proxy endpoint, and you should see the same things back to normal. To actually look in, yeah, no problem. So if you've got time to quickly look inside the code there on the server.js file, Augusto, yeah. And then if you scroll down, there's a file that's called download lookup table. There it is there. And this is all it is. It's literally download the dbid.idx file, and then it converts it to a uint32 array. And that will return back, it'll fetch that dbid idx file and return you back a lookup table. And it's very simple. You just give it a dbid version 2, and it gives you back a version 1 dbid. That's basically it in a nutshell.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that's a very important. Just to share some insight on that, right? So the DBID from SVF and SVF2, they are different because of the way we generate the mesh. In summary, but it's also very important to notice that the DBID was not meant to be always the same, right? So maybe we have this behavior that in most cases the same model will generate the same DBID, but your application should really rely on the external ID to make sure that it's consistent between versions, etc. But we understand that many applications are relying on the DBID instead. But that's why we're having this challenge here to move from SVF to SVF2. So if possible, consider having the external ID as your main mapping, not the DBID. But no, if you must to, then thank you, Michael, for showing how to share that information here. So that's very interesting as well.
Yeah, I'll produce the blog post today. I was working on that.
Cool. Excellent. Thank you very much. Let me, we're just a few minutes off, above the time. So let me move here. As always, I'll be, I didn't click share again, right? So yeah. As always, I'm going to share the recording, all the links we discussed here today on the YouTube channel that we have. And the next coffee break in 2 weeks will be August 11, and see you there. Thank you for joining today. Thank you for the great questions. Thank you for participating on the quick survey, and hope to see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.